Dear students, today we are going to learn about the usage of has to, have to, and had to. Now, dear students, what is has to, have to, and had to as a grammatical entity? So, dear students, some of the grammarians prefer to call them as semi-modals instead of modals, and there is a reason for that. The phrase has to, have to, and had to is officially not grouped under the category of modal verbs. It performs the same function and share only some of the characteristic features of the principal modals and therefore sometimes called semi-modal or pseudo-modal verbs, though it is grouped with modal auxiliary verbs for convenience by many. So, either we can call them as semi-modals or modal verbs. Now, as students, it is your choice to call them either modal verbs or semi-modals. Now, let us understand when to use has to, have to, and had to. These three modals are used to express some kind of obligation, compulsion, or necessity. These modal verbs are used when you have to do something. You have to do some kind of verb or you have to perform some action not out of willingness but out of necessity or compulsion or obligation. For example, if your teacher has asked you to finish your homework today itself, now you do not want it, but you have to do it out of compulsion. So what you are going to say? I have to finish my homework today itself. There are some things which you have to do out of compulsion, and there are some things you have to do out of necessity. And another things you have to do out of obligation. Now, what is the meaning of obligation? The meaning of obligation is there are some people to whom you cannot say no for a work. Like, for example, if your father's boss in the office has asked him to do any work, so just to oblige his boss, your father can't say no. So your father will say, I have to do this work since my boss has asked me to do this. So this is called obligation. Or if your teacher asks you to do something, you generally do that work because you cannot disrespect your teacher. That is also a kind of obligation. Hence, we understand that these three modals are used for obligation, compulsion, and necessity. Let us now observe and understand the formula or syntax of how to use has to, have to, and had to in a sentence. So, whenever we are going to use these three modals, we have to use them with first form of the verb. For example, I have to go to the market. I is subject, have to is the modal, go is the first form of the verb, and to the market is the object. Same way we can use first form of the verb for has to and had to also. Like, she has to go to the market, they had to go to the market. So all these three modal verbs are same in the terms of expression, like all these three modal verbs are used for necessity, compulsion, and obligation, but still there is some difference, some kind of difference in their usage. Let us begin to learn that difference with the usage of has to. Has to and have to both are used in present tense for this expression, but has to is used in present tense with third person singular, like he has to go to the market, she has to go to the market, whereas have to is used in present tense with first person singular and plural. For example, the first person singular and plural are like I have to go to the market or we have to go to the market. To is also used with second person singular and plural, like you have to go to the market or we can say you all have to go to the market. Have to is also used with third person plural. They have to go to the market. Remember, third person plural, not third person singular. Only with third person singular we have to use has to. Other than that, with first person singular and plural both, have to is used. Second person singular and plural both, have to is used. So you have to remember that in case of present tense, only in third person singular has to is used. Other than that, have to is used with all other subjects. Now let us come to the usage of had to. Had to is used for the same expressions but in the past tense, and there is no discrimination of subjects while using had to, since it is used with all the subjects. There is no discrimination like we had in the present tense between has to and have to. Had to can also be called as the past form of the modal verb have to. These modal verbs can also be used in future tense with the help of will and shall. So when we write them with will and shall, like will have to or shall have to, they mean same as must. For example, if my boss calls me tonight, I will have to work tomorrow. So then in that case, it will mean same as must. Sentences written with the help of has to, have to, and had to modals can also be changed into negative and interrogative sentences with the help of the rules of simple present and simple past tense. Writing the has to have to sentences into negative and interrogative forms, we will be following the rules of simple present tense. For example, the sentence I have to go to the market will be changed into negative form as I don't have to go to the market. In interrogative, it will become as do you have to go to the market? So, children, you can observe that we are using the helping verbs used in the simple present tense. While changing the has to sentences into negative and interrogative forms, we have used the helping verb does not and does. For example, she has to go to the market to buy vegetables. It is an affirmative sentence with has to. So while changing it, it will become as she does not have to go to the market to buy vegetables. Now let us learn how to change had to sentences in negatives and interrogatives. This can be done with the help of the rules of simple past tense. As you all know that while writing the sentences in negative and interrogative in simple past tense, we use the helping verb did. So in same way, while changing the affirmative sentences already written into had to, we have to use did and did not. We had to make a cake for you will be written in negative as we did not have to make a cake for you, and in interrogative it will be written as did we have to make a cake for you? Dear students, please remember when we write these sentences in negative and interrogative forms, we never use has to or had to. We only use have to as the basic structure because the basic structure is have to. So when we use do and did, so with do and did, has to and had to is never used. We always use have to only. Like, I don't have to go to the market. She does not have to. Children tend to write she does not has to, which is wrong. In past also you cannot write she did not had to. It is wrong. You have to write she did not have to go to the market. Why we have to do it? Since the present and past is already indicated by does and did. Just remember one thing, while writing the affirmative sentence, some sentences are to be written with has to, some with have to, and some with had to. But in case of negative and interrogative sentences, we have to write all the sentences only with the basic have to form using the necessary helping verbs. Students, now read some mixed sentences given in the table for better understanding. Thank you, students. Hope you have understood the concept well.